Hey, folks, Miguel Arati back here on the MMA Museum podcast, and we have a very special treat here today. A literally jiu-jitsu legend here. I am joined by Baret Yoshida, originally from Hawaii, now out of San Diego. And Barrett started competing in the 90s, and he's still competing to this very day. Barrett, how are you?
Good, good. I'm doing well.
I'm glad to see you again, sir. So, unusual that we start like this, but you just competed last weekend at the Abu Dhabi trials. Talk about that. Talk about trying to get to Abu Dhabi again after 25 years, and what was the motivation of doing that? How was it going? Because you started out as a young gun, and now you're the wise older veteran. So talk a little bit about the experience this last week, or at least the last couple of weeks in Abu Dhabi trials.
Um, I've been competing all the way through. I've never stopped competing.
Right.
Um, so I wanted to, try the trials once again, and I had some injuries beforehand, and I my first match I was waiting around. I had there was like a bye, and then the second match, a kind of younger opponent, and I ended up getting him in a choke. And then in the match to qualify to make it to the second day, um, I fought an opponent and he tried like a cartwheel pass, and he landed
Okay.
on my shoulder, and I dislocated my shoulder.
Ouch.
And then yeah, I was thinking about just like quitting there, you know what I mean? But I was hoping that maybe somehow my shoulder would pop back in. So like the rest of the match, I'm just trying to like pop my shoulder back in. I can't really do much, and he eventually he actually started trying like an arm triangle on me, and I like was trying to use his head to push my shoulder back in place, and then I blocked the choke, and I'd like use his head to try to push him, try to just get it back in place, but I couldn't pop it back in, and then like I guess he kind of like sensed at some point that my arm was just dangling around, so at the very end he attacked my hurt arm, and he he got the lock.
Yep.
And
Okay,
that,
so now just to go over this, the first opponent that you beat with the Anaconda choke, which is one of your favorites.
yes,
And that was Jay Autry. And then the guy that you got hurt with was CJ Murdoch. So these are
yes, yes.
younger guys. What you thinking? How was the competition? Was it interesting? How do you deal with the younger guys that are still coming up and maybe at this point maybe a little faster, or how do you see it?
um I wanted to see, what the differences would be like, because I've been competing consistently, um, and I wish my shoulder didn't pop out, you know what I mean? It's a hard because I felt like I was going head to head, it was pretty comparable, you know what I mean? I
Good.
didn't hit a point where I was getting run over yet, until my shoulder popped out.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, if ever you thought, oh, Baret Yoshida is not hardcore. Listen to this guy. He was trying to use the guy's head to pop his shoulder back in the middle of the fight, and that's how hardcore this guy was. Now you go back to the 1990s, and first let me ask you. We'll stay on the Abu Dhabi trials for a little bit. How did you see the trials? Because you were back. You went to Abu Dhabi, the original shows, and they were private shows. They were awesome and they were big for the time, great competitors. But now, how about the audience and all that stuff? Did you sense that difference? How does that feel?
Um, it just got really, really big, really big. Yeah. And there's a lot of the same vibe, but a lot, but yeah, but definitely like a lot different. Like everything just like more modern. Um,
Did they do light show and like entrances and things?
yeah, 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 yeah. For like um the semifinals and the finals. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a really good production. Yeah. Um, I
Do you
remember
remember? Yeah, go ahead.
like the old Abu Dhabi, and that was good. Um, I mean, I remember they had like boats and cars that they were giving away in the Abu Dhabi, and all the sheiks were there. You know what I mean? And um, you know, it was like in a private his own private gym, right? I guess you know what I mean, or event center.
Yeah, it was a horse pavilion where they show horses because they also collect,
Oh,
horses. Because
yeah, yeah,
it's open air and the big area in the middle is for the
yep,
horses actually.
yeah, yeah.
And I wondered, do you remember back in the old days, the production was basically, remember they had like guys playing drums the whole time?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Definitely some crazy stuff. Um, so you enjoyed the new Abu Dhabi experience because you said you've been competing all along, but you did at some point transition into the Masters group. So, have you been
Yeah.
fighting younger guys like this, or was it you said you wanted to test yourself?
Yeah. It's been a couple years since I've fought, or maybe like 4 or 5 years since I fought in a adult division. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I just been hanging out in the Masters division a bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, definitely, I wanted to test myself. I want to see, you know, uh, you know, where the athleticism, you know, meets off.
yeah, and you were elite back then, and you said even now you got some confidence. You felt like you were hanging until you got hurt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like I could have done better. You know, if my shoulder didn't pop out, definitely. You know what I mean?
I got you. I got
Yeah,
you. So now let me ask you:
yeah.
Are you going to make that phone call to Guy Nevens and say, "Hey, can I get into the big tournament?"
No, no. Um, I, I, I watched Mo's live, and you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
you know, he's always talking about the invites or whatnot. You know, and they're already set with a bunch of guys that they're gonna invite. Yeah, it's all
Well,
closed off for me.
well, I wish you luck. As maybe people drop out and stuff like that. Like in the old days, if you get in, it'd be an amazing thing to watch because, especially like if you say you can hang, then that would make incredible waves in the jiu-jitsu game because it sometimes is considered a young man's game for you yourself to go back and win a championship, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean the trials are only 6 minutes as well. So it's very close to like a master's division. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, whereas the ADCC itself is 10 minutes. You know, so you know the time difference. You know, plus like um you know, I didn't really get to see um I didn't get to the second day where you know because as the competition goes on, you know, the it gets tougher and tougher. You know, as you get deeper in the bracket. You know, so
Sure.
yeah, yeah. But I just want to see. I want to see where I
Yeah.
hang now. You know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the martial arts mentality that you've always bought. So very much appreciated. Now the hard nosed, the hardcore guy goes back to your early days in Hawaii. Talk about your youth. How did you find jujitsu? Because I know that you started training with Relson Gracie, who's known as a
Yeah.
hardcore guy. So how did you meet Helson, and what were you doing before that? Were you wrestling, or were you a bully as a kid? Were you bullied as a kid? Tell your story as a kid first.
Um. So like when I was like 7, I moved from Kaimoki to Mililani, a nicer neighborhood. My dad got a better job, and you know, um, he put me into all the sports like soccer and football, baseball. You know, and I would just be going from one sport to the next. You know, I mean judo. Um, you know, I did like karate and you know, I did kendo and just swimming. So um, as long as I can remember, I always had some kind of competition. You know what I mean? Like it would be like football season. Okay, baseball season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I speak. But
So sports have been with you since you were 7.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like
Amazing.
nonstop. You know, it was nonstop. Then I was working at my dad's fish market. I think I was like just finished high school.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So
And
17, 18 years old.
yeah, yeah. And then like a guy came in because I used to have the black belt magazines and whatnot, and I'd be reading all that, inside kung fu and you know what I mean, all that, and I remember reading articles about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, you know what I mean,
Sure.
but I really I didn't know what the hell that was about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you know what? I actually ended up seeing the Gracies in action too. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
watched that video, and then I think the first UFC came out, and Hoist like just crushed everyone. But anyway, I was at my dad's fish market, and a guy walked in, and he had a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu t-shirt on, and he's a Brazilian guy, and he wasn't Helson, it was just like and
Student or something.
yeah,
Or,
yeah, yeah, he was in there, and I started asking him about jiu-jitsu, about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And then, and I was like, yeah, it's probably too late for me to, start, what I mean? And he's like, um, no, 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 it's easy to learn, like just come by Studio 4, on this day or whatnot at this time. So yeah, I forgot what day it was, like a Thursday or something, or what I mean?
sure.
Yeah. So I ended up, on one of those days going over there finally, what I mean? And there were just like a bunch of, it was like a filled out room, and just a bunch of like athletic looking guys, like the guys with their, they just have like V pants on, and you couldn't go into the room. They would like just close the door, and they're like Mad Doggy or whatnot, what I mean, because no one was allowed to watch. But there were like 100 guys in that room or something, what I mean. So eventually, like I talked to the girl in the front. I was like, hey, like, how do you sign up? How do you join? You know what I mean? Or and she was like, hey, like there's a waiting list, and she
Wow.
took out she took out a book, and she like flipped through all these pages, and there's all these names on there. What I mean? And then I put my name on the list. Then I asked her, I was like, hey, how long because it's waiting list,
Sure.
how long does it
Crazy.
take for a person to drop out? So and she's like, yeah, like once in a while someone will drop out. So I was like, there's probably like 100 people in front of me on the list. I'll probably never get to jiu-jitsu. And then like I was like, in the meanwhile, as I was waiting, I didn't think if they were ever going to call or whatnot, but me and my friends, would go to the wrestling room, and we just like mess around, what I mean, try copy what we thought we saw Hoist do and stuff like that, what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's probably about, I'll say like 6 months later,
Wow.
I got a call one day, and I forgot about it and everything, and they're like, hey, not at the main academy, but we have a side academy in IAO, and all the people that started on the I'm sorry, all the people that are on the waiting list, we're gonna start them off there. What I mean? If I'd like to come, so I went there, signed up, like
That's awesome. The rest is history.
yeah, yeah.
So, who was the instructor? Was it Helson, or as a side academy, did they have another guy?
Yeah, so Helson was there the first couple weeks, I think, and then afterwards it was there were four purple belts. It was Sam Mahi, Mike and Chris Onzuka,
Sure.
Scott Divine. Yeah,
Sure. The Azukas for sure, Hawaiian legends,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's great. That's great information. That's an unbelievable start. So when you met Helson, what impressed you about him? Because he's known as kind of like we were talking about, a hardcore guy. Did you see some that were like, wow, that's crazy. You know, talk about, because they had to be trying to impress also to show what they're doing.
Yeah. Um, at the time, um, we it was because we seen what Hoist did, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, it was said that like, Helson kind of could um beat Hoist, I guess, kind of, to
Yeah.
because he's like the older brother or whatnot, So we never questioned him, but you know,
But,
they were
but
always telling me that he was the one that with the most street fights, Helson.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard about the 100 street fights and
yeah.
stuff like that. Now, but they actually made it clear to you that he was better than Hoist. Like he's the older brother, he's better than Hoist.
They insinuated, you know what I mean?
Yep,
Like, so, I kind of got the picture, you know what I mean?
sure.
Um,
Got you. That's very
yeah,
interesting. Now, let me ask you. Now, somewhere along the lines, Ensign and Egan pop in to be Helsing students at some point. Were they there right away? Did you know them before, or did you meet them there?
um, they were already, uh, yeah. When I started, they already had. So I think Ensign was already in Japan, and then like or and Egan was was already doing his own thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Egan also was another. You talk about super athletic guys, Egan and Ensign, but Egan also I heard is was one of the top. Was it handball or like a
Racquetball, racquetball.
racquetball? Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he was
was
the
like
North
a
Cap.
real. And for a big guy, that's very impressive. Now, if you were known as their student, Egan and Ensign's, how did that come about? How did you gravitate to meeting them and being a part of their circle?
Um, I would fight against Egan's best students initially, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then uh you know I was invited to train together there sometimes, you know what I mean? So I would go and I would train there sometimes. Um but eventually what happened was one of my best training partners, he got um kicked out of uh yeah, he got kicked out of the academy. Like so after that, Helson was kind of like um he kind of changed his vibe towards me, and
sure.
then like we had like a falling out, and since I was training every now and then at Egan's, um I start training there. I mean, another thing was Helson. He didn't want us to fight. He just wanted us to do jujitsu. He didn't want us to do like the MMA part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, he said like that was for just the Gracies back then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, they do. They do. His reputation was that at some point he emphasized the jujitsu a lot more. Now with Egan and Ensign, you're talking about guys, tough guys. Now let me ask you: you were born in Hawaii, right?
yeah,
But Yoshida, you're Japanese descent.
yeah. Japanese descent.
Okay, so you've got that in common with the Inway brothers. Was that part of the connection you made initially with them?
Uh, not really, not really,
Okay,
not really, not really. It was just like just fighting against their guys in the tournaments and um,
they liked you. They
yeah,
started to respect you.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So let me ask you how into the MMA stuff were they in the very beginning? Because at the very beginning, like were you with them when they fought? Like, for example, when Ensign fought Frank Shamrock in Valley Tudo, Japan, were you traveling with them yet, or were you seeing some of those fights?
No, no, not yet. When he fought Shamrock, um, I was still at Helsing's. I was still I remember
Okay,
watching this fight though. Yeah, yeah,
it was crazy
yeah,
stuff, huh?
yeah.
So, um, by the time you get into, like you said, you were doing the local competitions and stuff, and now you're with Ensign and Egan, and by the time you get to 1999, they Ensign gets the big fight, a super fight with Mario Sperry in Abu Dhabi. The reason he got that is because he won a UFC fight against Royce Alger with a very fast armbar, and that made him his name become very aware worldwide. Did you go to that UFC?
No, no, no. Um I was there after that.
Okay,
Like, yeah, just a little while after that. Yeah,
okay. And did you see the
yeah.
UFC though?
I seen the UFC. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
when you met Ensign and Egan and those guys, and you started to train with them, you knew they were the real deal. You were happy.
yeah. I mean, I also heard stories from the older guys at Helsing's gym. When Egan and Ensign them were still there. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
come they
So
left? Do you know why they left? Just to start their own
um,
thing, or was there another
no,
one of
no.
those falling
It's yeah,
outs?
it was a falling out. I think it was a falling out. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah. Ensign,
yeah.
I think,
It
is a
was
guy that deserves to be a boss. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So, so you wind up over there now. Ensign's going to Abu Dhabi, he gets the invite, and he's going to fight Mario Sperry in the super fight. And Egan, I believe, competed in the tournament,
yeah.
and you went along and you got into the tournament there. What was that experience like? Was that the first time you traveled? Was that how was that?
Um, yeah, that was. I think I went to Japan like one time before that, but
Okay,
um, oh no, you know what? That might have been the first. Oh, I went to Brazil before. That's right. I went to Brazil um for the World Championships in '97. Yeah, yeah. So I already had a passport, but yeah, when I went to Abu Dhabi, I was just like just freaked out how different everything was. And
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
for sure. Now,
yeah.
so when you went to the '97 World Championships, you go to watch or did you go to compete?
I competed. I competed.
What belt
Yeah.
level? Blue or purple?
Blue.
Okay, how'd you do?
Um, I lost in the quarterfinals. Yeah, but
Okay,
I submitted like all my opponents and
you
yeah,
felt
like
you
I
felt you had a
wasn't I
good
was
show.
yeah.
Good, good. So '97, you get your first taste. Did you not compete in '98? Did you take a year
I
off?
did. I
How
fought in
that?
the Pan Am's in '98 and
Okay,
um yeah.
so you were starting to face good guys. Who was the best guys that you met before Abu Dhabi?
Um I think like I I was pretty much undefeated except for I fought BJ in a local tournament.
Okay,
Yeah, and BJ beat me. It was like 6-2 or something like that.
okay. And what did you? Who was training BJ?
He was training with Nova Uniao on
Okay,
with Charuto.
okay.
Yeah,
Renato Verissimo.
yeah.
Got you. Okay, cool, cool. So now BJ popped up in the early days as well. What was your impression of him? He's bigger than you though, don't you think?
Yeah. Um, so that was like a state championships, and I fought like my weight division, BJ's weight, and another weight class. Yeah, and then I fought the open as well. So I won everything except for BJ's match.
Gotcha. Okay, so
Yeah,
you're already starting to be like a protege or a talent. You're feeling confident, or
yeah. So
good.
that was how I got into the Abu Dhabi as well. I sent in my record. It was like, I forgot what it was like. It was like 60, 61 and or 63 and one or something like that. You know what I mean? With
Unbelievable.
63 submissions, something like that.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So that's amazing stuff. So now you get to Abu Dhabi, and in Abu Dhabi, you're still on the world level. Nobody really is aware of you, but you made a big splash. And right off the bat, I think you fought Megaton, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Wellington Diaz, who's very much
Yeah.
was a jiu-jitsu, guy that was he a black belt already?
Yeah. I think he was the world champ,
Yeah. And what
black belt
what
world
what
champ.
what belt were you at this point?
I was a purple belt.
So you're still a purple belt. Now, talk about that match, because the finish was pretty amazing.
Um, so in training, we had a pretty good training camp because John Lewis came and we had a number of black belts and uh John Lewis kept giving me confidence, because I, I was like submitting a lot of these black belts, you know what I mean. So John Lewis was like,
Cool.
"Hey man, you're gonna upset this guy," So not to mention uh Egan and Egan as well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They kept convincing me that I was gonna like beat these guys. Yeah. So then like when I fought Megaton, um, I wasn't intimidated at all or anything. I was like I was just like almost like brainwashed. I'm it's just a matter of time. You know what I mean?
Cool.
I knew he had good judo, so I kept trying to like pull him down to the guard. You know, but then he kept standing up and making me want to fight, but trying to entice me to fight on the feet, and then eventually like because he's grabbing so hard and he's grabbing so stiff, he left himself open for that armbar, and I just jumped and I got it.
It's listed as a flying armbar, so
Yeah.
there's not too many of those, and you got a purple belt getting a black belt in that also makes a good statement. So,
I feel
how
it's like the first flying armbar in Abu Dhabi.
that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
That's sweet. That's definitely sweet. So now comes a little bit of a different twist, because Abu Dhabi was not just jiu-jitsu. Now you get into facing a guy who's got more of a wrestling, maybe a sambo background, is Sasha
Yeah.
Paluski, and he was also a member of the Abu Dhabi team. He was one of the foreigners from Russia and that area that they had gotten to be there. Talk about what you remember in that match, because this is only your second match, and this is your a really huge competition, and he's kind of the hometown guy. What was your thoughts?
Um, for one, his physique, he was just like um a specimen.
Yeah.
He was thick. Um, is kind of, it was a little intimidating. Um, yeah, in that match, uh, I think I almost like armbarred him in the guard earlier, and he picked me up and he slammed me. So now I was thinking like I was trying to figure out how I can submit him if every time I uh attack a submission, he'll just pick me up and slam me. You know what I mean? Because he's so powerful. So even so I knew I had to start wrestling with him, and then like I at some point I eventually I shot like a single leg or something, and then he threw me with like a uchimata. But what happened is he threw me, and I ended up on top.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I ended up on top. So I passed his guard, and we're going out of bounds. I passed his guard, and I jump on his back, and I slap a choke on him. And then like the referee is like telling us, well, I don't know what the hell he's saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's telling us something. You know what I mean? standing something, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to keep my position, you know what I mean? And the rest they tell me like, oh, and I'm like, no, I had this, and so we're kind of arguing there, but I guess the time is still going. So at some point I'm like, oh, I'm thinking in my head, like, it's all right, I'm gonna choke him anyway, so I'll just like start how you want me to start, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And then they say go, and I guess the time was running. So like when they say go, they called it time. And then like I still thought I won. And then they raised up his hand, and I remember I gave like a gesture, like I like like it's the only time I ever
Felt
did something like
emotion.
that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like yeah, it's like, what I mean? And I walked off the mat, and then after Egan talked to me, about that, I never did that again,
Yeah.
But you know what? I remember like just telling Egan like that's fucking bullshit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he didn't care to know about none of that. He just cared about how I acted, what I mean, at the end of the match. There was another incident where in a different match, and I was just gonna walk off the match, and Egan was, hey man, go over there and shake the guy's hand, in a different match, but other than that, like
So
yeah,
you're always now 25 years later, you're known as a classy guy. So that comes from the Inway brothers. They taught you that.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
That's interesting. So now here with the Abu Dhabi treatment, now this is something you're still in 99. They do the absolute draw and they bring you into the absolute because you did have a good performance and with Sasha Paluski, even though they gave him the match, you made some noise. Now you get something really weird because you probably fought, if not the biggest guy at the tournament, probably he was definitely one of the three biggest guys there. There's a guy named Garth Taylor who was like a fire hydrant, short,
Oh, yeah.
but 300 pounds. And he had finished fourth in the heavyweight division, which even back then was not easy. So he knew what he was doing. He was a good grappler. What was your experience fighting a guy literally double your size?
So I mean, in his match, I pulled guard, like in the beginning to not give up any points, and I just was kind of fending him off, hoping he was going to get tired. That was my plan. I was like, I hope he kind of gasses out, and gives the opportunity to score or something, But yeah, there's not much I could do. I mean, he couldn't pass my guard, but there was no offense I could really do against him.
He just crushed you on top.
Yeah, he just kept coming forward, and yeah, I just kind of use my jiu-jitsu to keep myself safe. Yeah.
So have you ever had an experience like that again? Fight a guy like double your size in the future?
Yeah. I fought um several times actually. And it's usually the same outcome. You usually say the same outcome. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. Once you get
Yeah.
the guys that have some skill, size does matter. If the skill's getting to be about the same, even you give Garth Taylor credit. He was not
Oh
unskilled. He
yeah.
was a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like a very athletic big guy.
Yeah, he could move. He could move around.
He had some nice fireman throws on giants way bigger than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk. You go home. What is your experience like? What did the Inouye brothers tell you? Because you were going to go back next year, and you went back next year after a good showing. Were you confident that you could win? What was your impression going that, or was it just overwhelming? And you were like, okay, that was good, but well, just tell me about your mindset going into the next tournament.
Yeah. So Egan, he always yeah, he gave everyone confidence. He didn't care about someone's credentials when it came to competition time. You know what I mean? So we we were all we all kind of copied him, he would always tell us, like anyone can win the day of the tournament, so um when I went back, I felt like um I could have went farther. I could have done better. I mean, it wasn't a testament of the full amount of skills that I had, and I was confident for all the times I actually.
Now, this is a very interesting set of dynamics happened the first. So the first year, you won a match, you fought 3 times. Now you come in, you get your original instructor, Helson's brother, younger brother, maybe the most decorated jiu-jitsu guy at the time, a multiple-time black belt, just black belt world champion, and just had retired from the black belt scene and was returning to Abu Dhabi like to finish his career. And I'm talking about Royler Gracie, and you get him in the first round. So talk about that experience, what it felt like, and again, talk about Royler.
Yeah, at the time, in our weight division, like no one could touch him, and I think maybe he lost against like a super heavyweight like Mario Sperry or something beforehand.
Yeah,
what I mean. But other than that, he was like invincible. But I was confident in some of the attacks that I had, that I was because I think in '97 I there was when I was still at Helson's, there was an argument with Helson and Carlinos. And Helson was always talk about how his he was like he would say that the farther away from like what you would say his dad developed jiu-jitsu, and the farther you stray away from what the dad taught, the worse your jiu-jitsu would become. So they had this argument between that, what I mean? And Helson asked me to do this kind of backroom match with Shaolin. Right?
okay.
So Carlinos was there. There was a bunch of other black belts, and they were all sitting there. And it was just me and Shaolin, and
Shaolin is Vitor Ribeiro, the
yeah,
who was from Pedernera's group.
Yep.
John Lewis and those guys that you knew from over there, that's their superstar.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk about this match, please.
He was a black belt, and I was a blue belt, and he would like pass my guard, mount me, I'll put him back in the guard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll be fighting a guard. He would like pass my guard again, and it was a very long roll, and probably like 40 minutes into it.
Wow.
I got like a collar sleeve grip on him, and I got to his back, and then when I was on his back, he it reminded me of like a bull rider, when they open the gate and what I mean, he had like a burst of energy, like freakish amounts of energy, it exploded. But I hung on his back still, and I ended up getting him. I finished him with a choke.
Wow.
Yeah. So, because of that, because of that role.
Yeah, you could hang with the best guys.
I figured that if I could get Royler in a good position, I could put him away. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So the match with Shaolin was with a gi, obviously.
That was with a gi.
Okay.
Yeah, that was with a gi.
Okay. Did not having a gi affect you? Was obviously Abu Dhabi was no gi. And that's the kind of thing that, somebody so technical, the gi brings a lot of advantages that
Yeah.
almost like Abu Dhabi is a little simpler. So, what talk about the effect of going no gi?
Um, it wasn't that like because I use more like a classical style. I use a lot of closed guard and um. So for me, when I went to Egan's, also we that's when I started learning the leg locks and stuff. Because we could do all the leg locks there. Because um the Shudo fighters would come and yeah,
Cool.
I even went to Japan a few times.
Okay, so you were
Yeah.
you were learning leg locks, and Helsing didn't allow leg locks.
He allowed just the straight ankle lock, but I mean he kind of actually pushed the straight ankle lock a lot. That was like I guess that's one of his own personal
Favorites.
favorite moves, the straight ankle lock. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like super technical leg lock attacks like the Shudo fighters. You know what I mean? Where they had like one move. If you do this, this leg lock is there, and then there's this different type of leg lock. He just had like one strong, you know,
Yeah,
Achilles lock.
yeah, and we'll get to the Shudo guys later because actually it's interesting that you met them now because eventually you would fight some of them, and like Uematsu was fantastic with footlocks,
Yeah, yeah.
and guys like that. But let's get back to the Hoyler match because even though you lost, this is the one that put you on the map. You were very dangerous. Talk about what you remember of this fight.
Um, I think I came out and I try to like flying armbar or jumping guard on him or something. You know what I mean? Right off the start,
Sure.
and then he was trying to pass my guard, Um, and he was fighting me. He was fighting me aggressively. Yeah, he was fighting me really aggressively. He's pressuring the passes, uh, and he couldn't pass. At some point, I hit him with a pretty deep armbar, and then like his shoulders like double jointed or something, like so. I pulled it to the point, I was like, I got this guy. I pulled it to the point, and it just like it it just kind of like overwent. You know what I mean? And it just
Yeah.
like slipped out. You know what I mean? Then I was thinking like I can't armbar this guy. This guy. You know what I mean? I didn't even hear like crackling in his arm. It just like the point where it's supposed to bind, it just disappeared. And then he was out.
Yeah.
And then I think he might have attacked a foot lock on me. And I came up and I jumped behind him and I was like kind of taking his back. And then the referee told us to stop, but he kept moving. So he got a little bit um yeah he got a little bit more position. So when they brought us back in, right when he said go, he escaped that easily. Yeah.
So he's a real veteran. Yeah, he's one of the most flexible, double jointed, maybe I don't know if triple jointed exists, but if it does, he's triple jointed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but that's crazy. But now, Shaolin, a top notch guy, and you won, so you already got that confidence. But now you face the legends, and you could have won with the position, or and a lot of people noticed that the Abu Dhabi people did. How'd that feel? Because you only fought once that year, but you still kind
Yeah.
of left there as a little bit more of a celebrity, right? Don't you feel?
Yeah, 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 definitely, definitely. Yeah. Um I
Now
got a lot more respect from there. Yeah.
that's cool. Now every once in a while, the Sheiks were generous and they gave somebody a Rolex or something like that. Did you wind up with any good sponsorships or anything like that you can tell about?
Um the I think like that year, so that it might have been the year after that, that they let me wear one of the boat shirts.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they gave me they just gave me like bonus money, and every time I won, it would like double.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's good because the honest truth is in Abu Dhabi so far you fought 4 times, but you didn't make it into the money, so you were kind of like going for the experience at that point. So the next year in 2001, it becomes all worth it. Now in 2001, you kind of exploded on the scene, and you didn't get Hoyle Gracie in the first round because what they do is they seed everybody. So he would have been one, and you were still probably a lower seed that first year.
yeah.
But now your seeding went way up, and you got to meet him in the finals. So let's take a look at what you did in Abu Dhabi 2001. Um, in between, actually, before that, you fought something called Contenders, and
Oh,
this shows a match where in the Contenders,
oh.
and I'm not sure they have you fighting Kid Yamamoto
No, it's
in
actually in reverse. It's in reverse. The
okay.
the 2001 was first, and then that was like shortly after.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay. So
yeah, yeah.
I have it backwards. Okay. So let's go into 2001 Abu Dhabi. Now, to me, the 2000 and 2001 Abu Dhabis were the most stacked tournaments of all time because, now there's a lot of people that are grapplers that are specialized. But here they were bringing in the best guys from many different disciplines, like Mark Kerr. You had guys like elite guys from all over the place, Matt Hume students, and the best jujitsu guys, of which you were definitely one of them. Um, talk about that because you fought Gustavo Dantas, who's I believe Gustavo is really tall, really lanky, and he was out of Arizona maybe at that point, but he was also another one of those elite jiu-jitsu guys. What do you remember about
But he,
that
he was
fight?
still in Brazil.
Okay,
He was still that was before he made his school and stuff. He was still in Brazil training with
okay.
the. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what do you remember about fighting him?
Um, yeah, he had a very dangerous guard. He was very very tangly. He's fast. He was really quick. He came out really quick. I think he like closed the guard on me, and then I was trying to open his guard, trying to pass. Couldn't get around his legs, and um, I think he like surprise hit me with like a bump or something, and then like so it was kind of a sweep, and off the sweep I attacked his leg,
Yeah,
and he kept spinning out. He spun out of the leg lock, and I ended up getting him in a knee lock.
yeah. Now
Yeah,
let me ask you: was that jiu-jitsu or was that judo?
that was probably the shooto training that we did. Yeah,
Very, very, very interesting, and I'm glad you gave them credit because those guys I think sometimes get underrated. But I think the Japanese style with the leg locks is very special also.
yeah,
Um, now, what's unusual about this is Don just went to guard. You were working on top position because
yeah,
you're known for your guard more than that. Where obviously you were comfortable.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like on the top, I was I would get to a lot of people's backs from the top. So that was my
That was
that
your
was
thing.
my yeah.
Okay, now we had talked a little bit about you training with the Shudo guys, and I mentioned Naoya Uematsu, who's
So yeah.
one of my favorite guys, especially from the MMA stuff that he did. And you get him in the second round. Did you know him before? Had you trained with him before? And what was this experience like?
Um, a few days before the event, you know, I was like because for this event in itself, I flew in from Japan. I was living at the Shudo Academy in at Ensign's Academy, the Pure Red Oatmeal.
Wow.
So I flew in from Japan. So um Tetsuji Kato, he was one of my training partners. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he was in the event as well. So I was kind of hanging out with them, and all the whole Japanese team was together. So they started playing sumo on the beach. Yeah. So I ended up playing sumo with Uematsu a few days before.
Oh, that's
So I
cool.
had an idea. Yeah, I had an idea how strong is you know physically he'd be.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very interesting. Because he's a shorter guy, very very stocky, and obviously with MMA, powerful up on the upper body.
yeah, yeah,
But at the end of the day, it looks like you got him in a triangle. So you were working on the bottom, obviously.
yeah. We're gonna bottom. I kind of knew that, you know, from when we wrestled on the beach that he'd probably, um, yeah, he kind of bulled me around on the feet. So yeah, I attacked him from the bottom and I ended up getting him in a triangle.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's unbelievable the way those little nuances play in
Yeah.
at the highest level. That's great. Now, in the next round, now the next match is for you to get into the money, which is maybe where they gave you the shirt to wear and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and you fight the guy that has always come in second to Hoyler Gracie, and that's Alejandro Soca. And Soca and you go at it. Soca's been second to Gracie the year before. I think he won the Abu Dhabi the first year that he was
yeah.
there. So you're talking about another super elite jiu-jitsu guy. And talk about this fight.
So um, actually, I would watch Soko before. He was one of my favorite fighters because he would submit so many guys. And so um that match, I was yeah, I was a little nervous for that match in the beginning. Um, but I kept thinking about what my instructor told me, about how anyone can win and he and how they always encourage me or whatnot, and I knew that um if I could get him in a position, I could finish him, because of the Shaolin match before that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think like he had a really good guard. He pulled. I think he pulled. I might have pulled guard. I'm not sure. Like but I ended up on top at some point, and then and I was trying to pass, couldn't pass, and I ended up dropping for a leg lock, and I what I mean, and just like Gustavo, that might have fueled me as well, because I had just finished um Gustavo in a leg lock, so I kind of figured that um he's kind of the same thing in some positions. So I tacked the leg and got
Yeah.
him the same kind of knee bar.
Yeah, Nibar. Now that's
Yeah,
amazing. And you credited Shudo for that. Do you feel like
yeah,
you were a little more sophisticated with the leg attacks than even the best jiu-jitsu guys?
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah,
Now
yeah,
that's awesome. Now the next fight, now you're in the finals and you meet Hoyler Gracie again. I remember this fight because Hoyler is the kind of guy that is just focused on one thing, which is winning, and it doesn't matter. And the jujitsu, I'm sorry, the Abu Dhabi rules are that you have no points in the first 5 minutes, but in the finals, points start from the very beginning.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember that you come out and you sit because you want him in your guard. You were ready to compete,
yeah,
and he kind of looked at you, and it was like, and I think you've wound up losing 0 to -1.
yeah.
And he felt like you just gave me the match, and then he did nothing. He stalled. Is what it seemed like to me. What are your memories of that fight?
So he had an interview before that fight, or I mean, or before the tournament in itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And and he was talking about how he he fights for the submission or yeah, you know what I mean, and like the way that it's supposed to be played or whatnot. So
yeah,
I thought that he could because the second time that he fought me, the first time he fought me, and he came at me. He came at me aggressively. You know what I mean? And I, that's when I almost capitalized on arm bar. Almost got to his back. So I thought he was gonna come and fight the same way, and I thought I thought I was gonna beat him this year. But yeah, he held that minus lead that I gave him off the start. You know what I mean? And he was content with that. And you know then I was like trying to make the deficit up. I mean, I was just doing like wild shots and I mean, just trying anything, flying scissor attacks and whatnot, just trying to make the and he just held that lead. What's kind of messed up too is like I actually scored a takedown on him in the no points uh so in the finals it's still there's still a section of no points, but for the no points does not count the negative advantages, the negative points, so
Okay.
if you give him points, so but I actually took him down in the no points in regulation time. I mean, that's probably like the only score anyone would have had on anyone. You know what I mean?
That's
And
unbelievable.
yeah,
So yeah. So now, how do you feel after that fight? Do you feel like disappointed, obviously, but also do you feel like you learned something, like a veteran like him? First, that he respected you, but also that you did, when you gave up the point, he felt, hey, I'm taking home the money, and that's it. That's the most important thing. And at the end of the day, it is a business. There were times where you obviously are doing this for money and stuff. Do you feel like you learned something from him?
yeah, yeah.
Win at all costs?
Yeah. It's almost like when the people say things, and when the money is there, you know what I mean? What's going to really happen is going to really happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And um,
He didn't do what he
yeah,
said he was going to do in the interview.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, but finishing second is not bad. Now you're in the money. You got the good sponsorships and stuff. And that is your 2001 experience. So now let's talk a little bit about um, that Contender show where you fought Kid Yamamoto, because Yamamoto might be a guy that you knew. He's also a guy that is associated with Ensign and Egan, more Ensign. And at one point he was he comes from a wrestling family, but he was the number one MMA fighter in the world, many people feel. And here you have him in a grappling match. What was your experience fighting Kid Yamamoto?
So we were roommates, and then like we would train together like every single day, every single day. And you know, we were in the tournament. We ended up meeting before the finals, and you know, he had he had an injury previously, like on his knee, and I was like, hey, just go to the next round. You know what I mean? I'll just bow out and go to the next round. You know what I mean? But then he was like um he told me since he had a knee injury, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that he would bow out. You know what I mean? But then they were saying something like if somebody bowed out, then they'll put the other guy in. You know what I mean? A different guy in. So we agreed that in the match he would just stop because of the knee injury. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
So you advanced kind of because again, business. We saw people do that in Abu Dhabi too, where it was
yeah,
like you know, you have your opponent, your opponent, you kind of already know, how hard or how difficult a match would be for real, and you made an agreement then. Okay, that's
yeah,
honorable in terms
yeah,
of especially talking about it. So I appreciate that a great deal. I think we're robbed of a spectacular fight.
Yeah,
But what do you think of Yamamoto and his talent? So, especially his MMA stuff, because now rest in peace. Obviously, we know that
yeah.
he lost the fight with cancer at the end, but he spent some incredible moments at the top of the game. What was your feelings watching him, and the fact that you knew him, and you were roommates with him and stuff? Obviously you were rooting for him.
Oh yeah, yeah. He had he had the full package. Even his jujitsu was really good jujitsu as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Was he as bad a boy as they say he was? Like, Japanese guys don't usually have a lot of street fights and stuff. Or
oh
was
yeah,
some
yeah.
of that showmanship, or was he uh,
No, yeah.
a crazy
Um,
guy?
I actually got into a yeah. No, he was always getting into street fights definitely, and yeah, yeah, yeah. Because he wouldn't let things go. He wouldn't let things go. Yeah, like there was a time where like because we were roommates and I guess his sister had trouble at a 7-Eleven or something like a convenience store,
AM
but she had
PM.
already left the store. She had already left the store, but she just was kind of just like telling him about what happened, and she kind of described uh, what they looked like, and he was like, "Hey, Barry, let's go," and I jumped in the car with him. And so we're looking for people that you know that might have this sweatshirt on or whatnot. You know what I mean? Which is yeah, yeah. But I actually got into a big brawl together with him in Roppongi.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was the
Talk,
kind of yeah.
so what happened in that brawl? How many people? Were you Gaijin people in Roppongi, or?
Yeah, yeah. So we were going to some nightclub or something, and Kid was like, "Hey, I need to stop off here, what I mean, to pay respects to my my senpai, what I mean, he's in there, so we had to stay outside of the club. So we're outside of the club, and he went in. He just went in real fast to talk to his sponsors or whatnot.
Sure.
And so we're waiting outside, me and this guy Tony. Yeah, and there might have been a couple other guys too. And then like um the guy Tony, he's from Guam, and he's talking to this big white guy, and then he's in the he's like in the middle of like there's like 3 or 4 of them. They're all around him, and he's just talking to him, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm on the side, but I see the guy like uh grab Tony and headbutt him, so I jump off the railing, what I mean? I jump off the railing and I double leg that guy. And I guess as I'm double legging him, the guy had like a beer bottle in his hand. So he like swung the beer bottle, but then Tony blocked it with his face. So so it broke on his face, what I mean? And I take the guy down, and then the security guards, they start grabbing me to pull me off, what I mean? So I try to armbar the guy as they're pulling me off, what I mean? And I kind of kick him a couple times, and then I see my friend Tony, he's all bleeding, from the
Sure. For the bottle.
yeah, and another guy starts coming around the side, and he's trying to like blindside me, so then like I'm like I have my hands like facing one guy, and my head's like looking at the other guy on the side, because he's trying to blindside me, and then it was just like this big brawl. Like I remember just running and just punching guys, and finally it it finally kind of stopped. It kind of stopped. Like there's they're getting held back, and we're walking on the side, and then Kid Yamamoto comes running up the stairs, and he's like, hey, Baret, oh, where are the guys? You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh no, no, the fight's done. The fight's done. But they're still screaming. You're getting held back and still screaming. So he runs over there, and he like jump kicks the whole group of them. They all fall down. Then he like um he gets on top of the guy, and he's trying to hit the guy, and the guy's just blocking him. He Kid Yamamoto's on top of him, and then Kid's senpai, their whole group comes up, and they see Kid on top of the guy, and so they tell Kid get off, you know what I mean? And they start grabbing him and pulling him off, but then the guy reaches his hand up and I guess he pushes the boss, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, it's bad.
like the boss was pulling Kid off to save him, but when he pushed the boss, when he's getting, yeah. So they all grabbed him, and then they carried him down like it was like a movie. They all grabbed him. They carried him down the side of the bar down to the playground, man. There's some playground down there, and I don't know what happened to the guy. And we just got out of there, But
yeah, it's not good news, but that's very interesting. Yeah, so Yamamoto, he had that reputation of being crazy, and I know I've been to Japan a few times. Street fights aren't common, so it's very interesting for you to back that up, that Yamamoto was the real deal kind of thing with that.
Yeah, yeah.
So now, as we go on here, we go into a tournament in 2002. You have a few fights. One of them is against, now you want to talk about footlock legends, Imanari.
Yeah.
What do you remember about fighting Masakazu Imanari, who I think he like yourself is still competing nowadays. He's just a lifelong competitor, known for his locks, also known for an unusual game as well, not just the standard stuff. And did you know him beforehand? And he didn't come from Shudo. He came from some other discipline, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what were your thoughts? What do you remember about this one?
So I was very like at the time, because I was fighting in Shuto, and I was one of the class A fighters. I was ranked and stuff, So and not to mention I trained at the Purebred in Japan.
Sure.
So I felt like he was coming. I think he was coming from like Kingdom or like Rings or something, So,
yeah,
so it was like a different offshoot. So I felt like I had to win for Shuto.
Okay.
Kind of
Okay.
like that,
Like you were representing Shudo. I understand. They were big on that. You know what I mean? They did not like the other groups and insisted that you stay with Shudo and things like that. Now, was this grappling or was this a fight?
It was a grappling match. It was a grappling match.
Okay. And eventually you got him in a
I choked him from the back, the rear naked choke.
Yeah, rear naked choke, RNC.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as we go on here, you fought a couple more times that year. Danielle Moraes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Danielle Moraes. Yep.
Now this was one that looks like it was in a jiu-jitsu tournament in the absolute division, and did he score a lot of points on you? What do you remember about this fight?
We're mostly wrestling. Yeah, it was mostly wrestling, and I think he got me with like a head and arm judo throw. Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah. I think that's where he scored his points.
Okay. Now, one of the things that happened in 2001 into 2002 is that Abu Dhabi decided two things. First, that they were going to switch to a format of skipping a year, and then also that they were going to take it away from Abu Dhabi and go to different locations. And the first year in 2003 that they chose was to go to Brazil. What do you remember about going to Brazil for the Abu Dhabi tournament? Now you're one of the main guys in the draw and one of the most important Abu Dhabi fighters already. talk about going to Brazil to compete. You already competed there, but this is the top-notch tournament with the top guys in their hometown. What do you remember?
Yeah, that Abu Dhabi was a very memorable Abu Dhabi. You know, a lot happened in that one.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, that was the first time we seen Marcelo. You know, he was actually he was on my warm up mat, like, you know, just going crazy on the warm up mat in the back. And I mean, I just remember thinking like, who's this guy with bushy hair just going like crazy on the warm up mat here? You know?
yeah,
Yeah. And then you know, that's when Eddie triangled Hoyler. Um, and that was a different part of Brazil. That was like Sao Paulo. So
yeah. It
it
wasn't
was,
real.
yeah. That was in my memory. I felt like the the arena was a very big arena as well, big arena, and I felt like there was a whole lot of people there.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
seeing a line outside.
Yeah, it was a big arena with the seating, but the actual competition was far away from the crowd. Like there was a
Yeah,
lot of space in between, you know. Um, yeah, it was a very memorable one. Now, what I remember is that a lot of people thought, especially with the year off in 2002, Hoyler was now a year older, and that Hoyler was getting older, and that he was going to get beat this year. But nobody thought Eddie Bravo would do it. What were your
yeah.
memories of what were your memories of when that happened, and what was your impression of all that? Did you know Eddie Bravo before?
um, the only thing I knew of Eddie Bravo was that he won the the American trials,
Yeah,
and and there were, because it was just an underground forum, so I didn't see any real, I didn't see videos and stuff, but you know, they kept talking about this twister move that he would do. You know what I mean? But yeah, you know what I mean. So um, and I think I watched like his first match against, he fought Gustavo. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And he spun like he got like to side, and he like spun to, he used the truck, and he spun to Gustavo's back, and he choked him out. And I remember thinking like what the hell was that? You know, like, because we didn't see like Baron Bolos and stuff back then. You know what I mean? Or the truck and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
Cool.
yeah, and his jujitsu, it was like from what I saw, he had like a unique style. You know? Yeah.
Now, did you think he would beat Hoyler?
I didn't think he could beat Hoyler. I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. I
Because
didn't think he
because
could beat Hoyler.
because when I talked to the jiu-jitsu people, they Hoyler was, like I said, older, and they mentioned two people that they thought had a good shot at beating him. One of them was you, and the other one was Leo Vera, because Leo was a young, hungry guy who would, kind of take the Abu Dhabi championship for the next few years, kind of thing. Um, uh, are you kind of disappointed that you didn't get to face Hoyler?
Uh, not really, but
Okay.
um,
Okay, that's fair. That's
yeah,
fair. There was a lot
not
of
really.
competitions there, and
Yeah,
and he's not the only guy in the world. Now you beat Soka again, which is another
yeah,
feather in your cap, because Soka, as you said, he's one of the guys that was an elite competitor, and you beat Soka in order to go into a match with Leo Vera. And what do you remember about the Leo fight?
um, it was mostly it was mostly wrestling, and then I think when point started, he grabbed my leg, and I tried to like flying scissors him, and I gave up the negative or whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like the Hoyler fight from there. Yeah,
Okay.
it was a little worse, but because when he kept the lead, and when I started chasing him, then he would score again. Whereas I think on Hoyler, when I started chasing him, he just kind of kept fending me off. You know, so
So
he
here's the secret question: of all those guys, Hoyler, Well, let's just take Hoyler and Leo. Who did you think was better when you fought them? Who was the most challenging for you?
Yeah, probably Horler was more dangerous, but Leo was harder to beat. Would be harder to beat, way harder.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He had a more defensive style. Very strong defense. Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. That's a fair and that's an expert assessment, obviously, from yourself. Let's switch over now. We talked about Abu Dhabi. We a little bit. We obviously you continue to compete in jiu-jitsu a long time. Let's talk a little bit about the MMA stuff because somewhere in there in the mix, you start to do MMA and you start your career off in MMA in the Super Brawl shows down in Hawaii, which were amazing big shows for the time. You know what I mean? What do you remember about that? You made your debut in Super Bowl 14, facing Ryan Cabrera.
Uh, yeah, that was on Guam. Um, so I think like before that fight, Rumina Sato and Hayato Sakurai, they came to Grappling Unlimited, the Egan's gym,
Okay.
and we all trained together. And
Wow.
then they told me, I should you know I should fight in Shuto. So you know
So
I kept thinking
Rumina
about it, kept
Sato
thinking about it.
recruited you.
Well, they were, hey man, you, you do the jutsu thing, but you should do Shuto. So I told Egan, and then that Super Brawl fight, it was Shuto sanctioned. So
Sure.
yeah. So um,
Yeah, so you became a judo fighter for the next little
yeah.
bit. Well, let me ask you this because I didn't realize that. We were talking about Leo, we were talking about Hoyler. When you talk about Japanese fighters, Rumina Sato is on that level. What was Rumina like to train with and to roll with?
Um, he, yeah, Rumina was really dangerous, especially with leg locks. Yeah, he had a very sharp heel hook. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. Good guard. Yeah, we mostly fought like leg locks against each other.
Okay. Now between Leo Hoyler and Rumina, you would have to. My opinion is Rumina was the best athlete. Did that come out? His speed, his strength.
Oh yeah. I think he was a little bit bigger that back then too. You, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a phenomenal athlete actually. Yeah.
Like up
Yeah.
there with Yamamoto, like that level of guys. Those guys
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
superstars, man. So yeah, Rumina didn't have a great experience in Abu Dhabi. You were with him in the first year he went. He actually got sick and didn't compete,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then competed in the second year. And I think one of the Brazilian guys kind of outpointed him the way,
Yeah.
and then he lost to Tito Ortiz in the
Yeah.
absolute. Do you remember all that? What
Yeah. I
was
remember that.
what was his reaction to not doing well in Abu Dhabi? Because I feel like he was very disappointed in that.
Yeah. I think he I think he made some statement that he was gonna win everything. Yeah. So especially when everything didn't go well. I don't think that was um I think he was very upset.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't win anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a shame. So now talk about the Shudo experience because you fought a couple of times in Super Brawl and then you went to Japan where again now it looks to me like they're putting you in with good guys the whole time.
Yeah.
Were you comfortable with MMA? Did you like it or were you already thinking I like jiu-jitsu better, or what was your mindset at the very beginning?
Oh yeah, no, I was comfortable with MMA. I liked it. I had a boxing coach, and um um
Cool.
it when I first started jujitsu, that was kind of what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? And then I got it. You know what I mean?
With the Hoist
Then I ended up,
Gracie influence, yeah.
yeah. And then like I just like the whole fighting in the ring and whatnot.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay. Very, very interesting. So at some point, you went with Shudo, you came back, you fought Super Brawl, you fought some good guys, Jeff Curran, Hiroyuki Abe. All these guys were big time guys with a lot of MMA experience. At some point in 2003, you went to fight in Pancrase, and you fought Yoshihiro Maeda.
yeah.
Now I know Pancrase and Shudo have a big rivalry. How did that happen? Why were you allowed to, or was it something you were breaking the rules? What was the deal with that?
Um, he was like he was undefeated at the time, Maeda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And uh, I think I might have already. I was kind of yeah. You know what? I was on a little break, I guess, in fighting, and then like they offered me a fight. They said it was at the sumo stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like I think Shudo said I could fight. They said I
Oh,
could fight. So then it was kind of like that um match against Imanari. Where I felt like
you were
um
representing Shudo.
yeah, I got to beat this. I got to beat this guy. And I thought I was gonna beat him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but Maeda and Pancrase, you're kind of walking into their hand, and it didn't quite
Yeah,
go your way. Now, um, one of the things that happened in your MMA career, and you fought 12 times, is when you lost, you were kind of I don't know if you were um trying too many things, but you got knocked out a couple of times. What are your feelings on that looking back at it? And do you feel like it affected you? Like, did you not want to do MMA because maybe, once you get knocked out once or twice and it keeps happening, then you don't feel good about it? What are your overall thoughts on that? Because you're a spectacular athlete, a super fighter, and everything like that. But all of a sudden, people start finding, like with Chuck Liddell, they start to be able to knock him out, and that's not a good thing. Did you stay away from MMA for your health? What was the whole story there?
um, I think it's like I just had other obligations and stuff. I couldn't focus the amount of time that I wanted to focus. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like yeah, I think that was the main reason why I stopped doing MMA so much.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah, it's the kind of thing where everybody at that time, by the time in the 2003, 2004, when you were there, the guys doing it were dedicated 100%.
yeah.
And you feel that made a difference. Who was preparing you? You were preparing in Japan with the ensign for those.
Some of them in Hawaii with Egan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now, did you go to some of Ensign's fights in Pride?
yeah. I saw Egan's fight against Malenko. I saw his fight against Guy Metzger. I saw Ensign's fight against Marker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were at those. What was your feeling of Pride? Was Pride something that while you were doing MMA, you kind of thought, I want to do Pride also, And did they ever show interest in you? Because they didn't like little guys.
Yeah. Um, I remember the Saitama Stadium was so huge. You know what I mean? It was like unbelievable how at the
Oh
time
yeah.
at least. Yeah. And I think like all I remember I was there with Kid actually. I forgot what fight it was. I think it might have been the Marker fight. But you know he was like, wouldn't it be amazing, if we fought here one day, you know what I mean?
Yeah. he got to do it
Yeah,
eventually
yeah, he got to do it eventually. Yep.
because he
I don't
fought.
know.
I believe he
I
fought
don't know
like
if it was pride, but I know he fought in that arena.
yeah, and I know that eventually at some point he fought in one of the most anticipated fights in Japan against a
Uh,
rival. In that, were you around him for that?
no, no, no.
No, okay.
Yeah,
You mentioned Guam. Were you friends with those Guam guys as well? And because I remember like you were Melchior
yeah,
came to
Milker. Yeah,
Abu Dhabi one year, and there were a few guys that were really
yeah,
talented guys. What do you remember about those guys?
yeah. Milker was with our in our training camp for the '99 Abu Dhabi. And he went and he fought. I think he ended up losing to Hoyler. But he did really well. He beat a bunch of guys.
Yeah, he won. He finished in the money. I remember. I think he
Yeah,
finished
yeah,
fourth.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep, yep.
that's amazing stuff. So what's now you go back and after the MMA stuff, you've as you say you have not stopped competing in jujitsu. There's so many matches that we could keep going here, but I know, at this point we're going through a lot of stuff. I appreciate so much. You've been fantastic. But what's your best memory from the jiu-jitsu tournaments and that stuff? What and who's your best wins and things like that? Go. I'll give you a time to freestyle a little bit here as we wrap up.
I think my best win. I beat Cobrinho uh, to win the ZSD Grand Prix tournament.
Okay.
That's probably my best win. It was a sub only match.
Okay. Ruben
And
Charles.
yep. And that's probably my biggest win.
Okay.
And
Now
he was the
Ruben
world champion at the time. Yeah.
and he went on to win Abu Dhabi for a couple of years too, right?
Yeah. He won it a few times. Yeah.
So now how come you didn't continue to compete in Abu Dhabi? Because I know, I was part of the team that helped put on the events. And it seemed like at times, you start, you become a favorite, and then like they look at new people and they want new people and they put the other guys to rest. Did you ever think about going back in these years while you were competing?
Um, I I kept doing the Abu Dhabis. I think like 2015. Um. So 2013, I was able to go again. 2015, they didn't let me go. You know what I mean? And then 2000, but I tried the trials in 2015, and I lost like in the quarterfinals or something or semifinals. And then
Okay.
like 2017, they brought me back for my last Abu Dhabi. That was the last Abu Dhabi I did.
Where were those locations?
Uh, so 2015 was Brazil. I didn't get to go. 2013 was China.
Wow.
2017 was Finland.
Okay. How was the
Yeah.
experience in China? Because over there, I think it's very different. There are not a lot of Chinese grapplers of that high level. So were you, and you're Japanese, like they have a rivalry. So
Yeah, yeah,
did you
yeah,
have
yeah.
fun? Was it good or did you feel pressure? What
Um,
was your stories?
I kind of didn't like China so much actually. Yeah, the I remember our hotel was really like old, and it was hard to find food that I we yeah, it was hard to find food, and you know it was cold, and kind of like foggy all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was it in Shanghai?
Beijing.
Beijing.
It was
Okay.
Beijing.
I
Yeah.
got you. Very, very interesting. So yeah, I was wondering what the experience over
Okay.
there was like because it's not known as a grappling culture, so I wonder if it was you were treated as a top level and it sounds like not quite, huh?
The I remember seeing at the stadium, but they had like I guess like flyers from the Olympics when they had Olympics there or something. So
Okay.
I mean, but it didn't seem on the level of what I would imagine in Olympics would look like. You know what I mean? Like as far as the stadium wise. So I don't know if that was like so many years ago that it was all run down, or
I
Yeah, I
got
mean,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
interesting. Very interesting. And you said 2017 was Finland.
Finland, yeah,
How was that? Because Finland can be cold.
yeah. Finland, Finland was nice. I like the nature there and stuff. The venue was nice. I remember they had like the Hell's Angels or something as the security guards.
Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've been to Finland and I enjoy it. I like it up
Yeah,
there.
that was
Um,
nice.
so Barrett, so it's 2024. You're gonna keep competing then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna keep competing.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's awesome that you can do it and still do it at a high level is fantastic. It doesn't surprise me because I saw you when you were starting in the Abu Dhabis, and I knew you were a superstar and a special athlete from way back then. But it's been definitely great to catch up with you. You moved at some point, and now we're going to wrap up. But you moved from Hawaii. You're living in San Diego. You have an academy. San Diego's like Jiu-Jitsu Central. There's a bunch of them. But
yeah, yeah.
what are you doing right now? Do you have your own academy? Are you associated with another, or what? Give us your deal here as we finish up.
So I'm at the training center, Chris Levin's gym.
Okay,
Um, yeah, so I'm the head coach for jiu-jitsu there. Yeah, it's in Pacific Beach.
okay. And so Chris Lieben, the MMA fighter, hired you to be the jiu-jitsu coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Chris, smart guy, Chris. Good, good. So you're still in touch with the MMA guys and seeing MMA and active in training MMA guys then.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Once in a while. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Well, Barrett, like I said, man, I appreciate a great deal. I knew that you would have fantastic stories from the old days, and that's what the MMA Museum podcast is about, to remember them, to get these stories down. Um, I appreciate it. I don't think a lot of people have interviewed you this way, so I appreciate it because it took a long,
Okay.
an hour and a half. You dedicated to us, and you gave us great answers and great stories. So thank you very much, Barrett.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, sir. I'll send you a link when it's ready. It's probably going to be about 10 days and I'll put it up. Okay.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Big hug, man. Thank you.
Okay, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye.